This is for educational and entertainment purposes only.
Hello, and welcome to the Think Tank, where we use critical thinking, deductive reasoning, and just a pinch of common sense to draw unbiased and logical conclusions. We are looking at a compromised election. Donald Trump says elections were stolen. They're going to be stolen. Meanwhile, the only person that appears to be trying to steal elections is Donald Trump. He had Steve Bannon talking about placing ICE in front of facilities, and he's been redistricting, and he's been trying to strike down the Voting Rights Act second portion, which protects against discrimination against voting. He's on a tear to discriminate, to stop from losing the midterms, which seems more and more likely to happen based on polling numbers at the present moment. The Congress is worried because they don't think they're going to be able to do enough about the economy before the midterms, because there's nothing they can do because the policies are terrible. Tariffs are a tax on the people. That's been understood by economists. Now the common man understands it. And now we have Kristi Noem, who wants the right leaders elected and says she will help with that, doing that. Now, oh, and don't forget the SAVE Act, yes, because, that way they can help control who gets to vote. Oh, your birth certificate doesn't count is, proof of ID. Why does it? Because birthright citizenship. So birthright citizenship is questionable. Then what does the birth certificate mean? So then how do you identify yourself as an American citizen? Since it becomes impossible to identify yourself as an American citizen unless you have a passport, that means the majority of Americans won't be able to vote. Kristi Noem says she wants to help with that. Department of Homeland Security, what the heck can you do to help? You can place troops at polling sites and stop American citizens from voting. That's the only thing she can do. Dion, my co-host, is going to give some sort of answer to that. Hopefully that'll be logical. I am looking forward to hearing this explained away. And so with no further ado, Dion, please do the damage.
Hey, family, I'm District Leader Dion Powell out of the Bronx Conservative Party, America First, sometimes America Only, strategist, consultant, community leader, and organizer, here to give you information as needed from our partners at Garrote. Both perspectives from left and right highlight Noem's claim that opposing the act signifies a desire to cheat, underscoring a fundamental ideological split concerning voter access and election security, with the right emphasizing perceived threats and the center questioning their prevalence. Now, why is that important, Leo? We know that nearly over 90% of American citizens have some sort of ID, even the migrants, because of the sanctuary city laws, especially here in New York, can get a free ID. I have one too. It's called an ID NYC. So this is an issue that over 70, I think, percent of liberals, actually, Democrats actually agree with. That voter ID on the federal level is fine. Now, when it comes to voting rolls, I'm a consultant. I do campaign management and a strategist. Voter rolls in New York are horrible. And like a lot of states, they leave a lot of names on them that are dead, moved, or whatever on the voter rolls that aren't being purged. This information, the federal government should put the pressure on the states to purge and actually clean up. And the example I will use for election integrity, because that's a part of Trump's initiative that he did last cycle for his election, look at Fulton County with a microscope and look at what the media is or not reporting from there. That's it when it came to their election for 2024.
Well, I want to start off with has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but let's add that in and remind the audience that Noem says she wants the right leaders elected. So none of that has to do with the fact that means that she wants the people that she wants in, the right leaders. And I mean the right. Also, let us take a look at this SAVE Act. You're talking about voter ID, but where's this? Congress.gov. This is the actual bill, which is not describing ID. This bill requires individuals to provide documentary proof of U.S. citizenship. Now, why is the difference in verbiage so important here?
Okay.
Because your ID is not proof of citizenship. This act will require proof of citizenship, which most Americans cannot provide. Because there are only two documents that do it. If you're born here, your birth certificate or your passport. There's no national ID. In countries with national ID, that makes sense. And then we're, of course, reminding the audience, in case they don't have your civic knowledge, Dion, overreaching, because the federal government has no say-so constitutionally, according to the Constitution, which was put together as the binding law for this country, and the rules and laws that have to apply have to abide to the Constitution. The federal government has no say-so in how states run their elections. So when you put all this together, right, Donald Trump's government, his Department of Homeland Security, wants to have an effect on how elections are being controlled, which is like, I don't have a word for how absurd that is. That is it. Why is the Department of Homeland Security trying to help control the elections? Federal government has no say-so in it, yet you have somebody talking about policing the elections that they have no say-so in.
Well, Kristi Noem very, very clear what I just read to you, Leo, that for national security, our elections should be protected. You don't want a house.
There's no such thing as a federal ID. So when she's patrolling these polls, how does her agents who have been radicalized and seem a bit out of control?
Well, you've read it yourself.
The question is, how do they determine who's a citizen or not?
Well, you read it yourself, Leo. It doesn't say federal ID. Number two.
No, it says you have to prove that you're a citizen. How do they determine?
Right, exactly.
Listen, without federal ID, how do they determine who's a citizen or not?
You just answered your own question earlier, Leo. You said proof of birth certificate or passport, or maybe actually the smart ID, because that's a combination. So
but the smart ID is only accepted as proof of citizenship in 8 states.
Okay, well,
unless you're yes, New York is one of them. New Jersey is not.
That's fine.
Right.
So go
ahead.
Go back to my previous point: birth certificate or passport. Now,
which is what I said.
Right, exactly. I'm using your own words. I'm asking you a question. There is no federal ID. What do we do? Well, so far from what you said, passport or birth certificate, fine. But on a federal level, Leo, you must understand and respect the political calendar, which is universal in the country, which is on even years, and every 4 years there are federal elections. So federal government has to have some input on that to coordinate.
No, why should they police their own elections? The federal government should police their own elections. That balance that the states have is how we keep the elections fair and just. If the federal government polices the elections, they control the elections. If they control the elections, they control who's seated. No, the federal government does not belong. That is the reason the Constitution is written the way it's written, exactly for that reason, to prevent them from being a king, to prevent the federal government from choosing who is elected.
That's not happening. That's not happening at all.
That is exactly how the Constitution is written.
That's fine, but I'm saying that's not happening. That's just more a projection of what is scared.
Oh
no, what's going to happen?
No, that's why the Constitution was written the way it was written.
I'm not saying.
You got to remember, when this country was incepted, they came from Britain where there was a king. They put together the laws to prevent something like that from happening again. Literally, the reason the states have control over the elections is literally to prevent the federal government from controlling the elections. I don't know how much you know about history, but that is the reason the states have control over the elections. That is the entire reason. There's literally no other reason. The reason the United States government, federal government, has no control over the elections and states have control is to prevent the federal government from controlling the elections and therefore who was elected. When you take that away, then there might be cheating.
Okay. So now, again, to my point, over 70% of Democrats agree with this.
That's not
The
true.
next thing is
That's not true.
that, bring it up. So that's one thing. The next thing is
They're
that,
arguing about it in Congress. It's like, come on, that's silly.
well, they already did the polling, Leo. CNN, do you know that guy on CNN, that smart guy that they hate, who reports only numbers? Over 70% of Democrats agree with this. So,
No, they agree. They agree with ID. They don't agree that they should have to bring their birth certificate to the polls. That's ridiculous.
well,
No, don't try that. They don't know what the bill says. They know the propaganda. The propaganda that you yourself just spewed, which was they have to bring their ID, not the facts. Because the facts are they would have to bring their birth certificate.
No, you said that the language you read the language of the bill itself, Leo.
Which says you have to bring citizenship, which is not an ID.
I didn't say ID.
You did say ID.
No, I'm saying what you said. You told us here on the think tank that federal ID, right? You also
told I said there is no federal ID. I was explaining
no federal ID.
I was explaining why the SAVE Act doesn't work. There's no federal ID. That's why the SAVE Act doesn't work.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that
I know you're not. You're not going to go back against Trump.
The news that you reported, Leo, you read the bill, proof of citizenship. You also said there are two scenarios for this to be happening: birth certificate or passport. I'm saying that over 70% of Democrats agree that we should present ID when voting.
Right. Now stop right there. See how you tried to, what is it? The word you love? Obfuscate? Listen, bringing ID and bringing a birth certificate are not the same thing. If I could bring my driver's license, I'd vote for that, sure. Security elections. Making me bring out my I-9s, documents that I should not be bringing out the house unless I'm going to do something like, I don't know, get a passport or like I'm registering my child to school in order to be able to vote is crazy. Do you know what the lines is going to look like at your local polling booth if everybody has to pull out their birth certificate? Are you kidding me? Are you freaking serious? And then ICE is going to be around, walking around in masks on with their guns like, yo, do you have your birth certificate? You look Latin to me. No one's for that. No one. Oh, well, wait. There's 30% of Americans that's for that. We call them MAGA.
Okay. Well, if I can close by going to our partners at Ground News.
Hey, everybody. This is your boy, Leo. You know me. I've been doing commercials for 15 years, television commercials, radio ads, billboards. Now, I'm trying to step it into the big leagues. I want to be an independent filmmaker. I've got the degrees, I've got the experience, and I need your help to make my first independent film, Garrote. So Garrote is Boys in the Hood meets Clue. So these dudes from Brooklyn is trying to buy their drugs to supply the hood. So they go to the mafia stronghold and they purchase their drugs, but one of them turns up dead. And now there's a race to find out who did it. The Godfather's going to send in his hit squad, Squadra Assassina, to take them out. They don't figure out who did it because somebody died on his turf and he's not happy and he can't have stuff like that happening in his business. So please, if you want to show support, my Kickstarter campaign is down in the description box.
This is Democrats No Voter ID is a losing issue. Bob Cusack is trying to let people know, According to the AI Washington Examiner executive editor Bob Coop says the Democrat leaders are resisting voter ID laws despite broad public support, arguing they recognize the political risk, particularly as debate intensifies over the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. I think, quote, it's really because the Democratic base, a lot of Democrats, and I've talked to a few of them, they know this is a losing issue for them, Cusack said on a Trinity board. Now, one platform I know is major on the right is called the Gateway Pundit. CNN calls out Schumer on live TV. 83% of Americans, including most Democrats, back voter ID. Schumer screams Jim Crow 2.0. Even the activists over at CNN are being forced to admit the truth. The American people are sick and tired of the Democrats' excuses. So it says very low factuality, but
Okay, so it's right-leaning and very low factuality. This is what you want to quote to support yourself. Sounds MAGA. You need closing statements on top of that ridiculousness?
we are the media, and now so are you. So make sure you make the algorithm pay attention by sharing our content and adding your own. That way, we'll hopefully get to the truth eventually.